Welcome back to the Garden Hutch. Today we'll discuss my favorite vegetable to grow here on the homestead, the tomato. Let's get going. Tomatoes are the reason I started gardening in the first place. To me, there is nothing like a nice ripe tomato in the middle of the summer. Once I started learning that you could grow your own tomatoes and have that fresh tomato taste year round, I couldn't help myself but to start trying. And now that we've started the homestead and that our goal is going to be as sustainable as possible from a vegetable standpoint at this point, tomatoes play a huge role in that. So today I wanted to kind of take everyone through what our plan in 2023 is to try to grow enough tomatoes to last us for the year. Let's begin by discussing tomato plants. So this year, for the second year in a row, we plan on starting our own tomatoes from seed. It's really easy to do. It's also a lot cheaper. We can get a packet of, between 30 and 50 tomato seeds for around $3. Whereas I believe last year for just 6 plants by themselves, the stores were charging over $5 for. So, if you do the math on that, you're saving yourself a lot of time and money. And all you really need to start tomato plants are, you need a container to put stuff in. You'll need your seeds, your soil, and sun. Other than that, you should be good to go. So this year, much like last year, we're going to grow 3 different types of tomatoes. The first type of tomato we will grow this year are Beefmaster tomatoes, and these are large tomatoes that are great for slicing. We also add them to soups or salads, that sort of stuff. They're not great for roasting and keeping because they have a lot of water in them, but are they delicious, let me tell you. The second type of tomato that we're going to grow are Roma tomatoes, and we had a lot of success with Roma tomatoes last year. These tomatoes are real meaty, they don't have a lot of seeds, and they don't contain a lot of moisture. They're perfect for popping in the oven, roasting for an hour or so, letting them cool, and putting them in freezer bags for overwintering. In fact, we eat Roma tomatoes about once a week, and we will have plenty to last us into the beginning of June, to when we're going to start getting more Roma tomatoes, hopefully in 2023. And the final type of tomato that we're going to grow this year are the cherry tomatoes. Now, we love cherry tomatoes. We eat them raw as snacks all through the course of the summer. They go really well as a snack with, if you take ground cherries and tomatoes and mix them together, it makes a fantastic pick-me-up in the middle of a hot summer day. And this year, we're growing 3 different types. We're growing the same thing we grew last year, which are the sweet millions, and we got a ton of those. The second type we're going to add this year, we're going to add in what they call a yellow pear tomato. I'm sure many of you are familiar to them. They're real popular at farmers markets and that sort of thing. But they are super sweet. We had a lot of them last year, and we decided we wanted to add them. And the third we're going to grow from a cherry tomato standpoint are Indigo Tomatoes. And Indigo Tomatoes, they have a kind of a, I don't know how to, a smoky pops into my head, but that's not really accurate. They've got they're a low acid tomato, so they've got a bit of a different taste. So the idea is this year we want to have sort of a medley where we can take the ground cherries, the sweet millions, the yellow pear, and the indigo tomatoes, and just make like a nice snack bowl worth of vegetables to just sort of grab onto throughout the course of the day. The next thing I'd like to discuss about prepping for this year's tomatoes is it's time to go ahead and decide where you want to plant your tomatoes. And the reason that I say this is, when it comes to tomatoes, they're heavy feeders. So it's always good to go ahead and kind of get a jump on the area that you want to plant your tomatoes in. So what we like to do is take today, for example, it's a beautiful January day. You go through with a hoe and just sort of break the bed up that you want to put your tomatoes in. If you have some eggshells laying around the house, now's a great time to add those in there. It'll give the microbes a chance to start breaking that down into calcium for your tomatoes. You don't have to put a whole lot in there. It's just enough to kind of get in there. And a lot of times it'll help you prevent some blossom end rot. Another thing that we like to do at this time of year for our tomato beds themselves is to go through and make sure that we've added some sort of organic matter to hold a lot of moisture. So you could put in coca coir if you want to. You could put in peat moss. Here on the homestead, we use leaves because we have an abundance of those. But any sort of organic material that can absorb water and hold it in is going to be your friend come, June, July, whenever your tomatoes start to fruit. What's up, Beansy? You having fun out here, buddy? Now let's jump ahead just a little bit. Once we get to, say, mid-April, we'll go ahead and just fluff the soil one final time before we plant it. And then at that point, what we like to do is we like to start developing our either trellis systems or making sure that we have the materials we're going to need to support our plants throughout the course of the year. Now, each tomato plant is going to need something a little bit different. Like you can see this large trellis here behind us that we made out of a cattle panel. We're going to use it for our cherry tomatoes because, they're indeterminate and they're going to get, large, tall, that sort of stuff. For our Roma tomatoes, because they're much smaller and they're a determinate variety, we're just going to use a short tomato cage. And then for our Beefmaster tomatoes, they won't quite get the size of the cherry tomatoes. So what we'll do is we'll use a large tomato cage for those, and then we'll put in maybe a 5 or 6 foot bamboo stake behind it. Use the stake for the main part of the stalk, and then you'll use the tomato cage to sort of, support the fruiting limbs and that sort of thing. Just wanted to throw a note here at the end of the video. It's a great time of year to keep an eye on the gardening departments at your different department stores, or if you have a ranch store around, Tractor Supply, that sort of thing or whatever. This time of year, a lot of times if they have extra of anything from the year before, they're going to start putting it out on clearance. So if you need T-posts or any of that kind of thing, chicken wire is another thing that can go on sale this time of year. Also is a good time to keep an eye out in case somebody had leftover fertilizers. This year, more than most, a fertilizer is going to be expensive just because of some geopolitical nonsense. Regardless, it is going to drive the price up. So if you can find somebody who has a sale on last year's fertilizer, since it doesn't have an expiration date, it's a great time to save yourself a few dollars and grab it. Well, that about wraps it up for us today here on the homestead. Let me know in the comments below what your tomato plan is for 2023. Until next time, I hope everyone takes care of themselves. Peace.